that might come with him taking a lot of time off after. So it might be better if Dricus wins, and then we can fight in 4 to 6 months. That would be best, I think.
I'd be like Khamzat, and yeah, no, I'd just pick that, no issues. But DDP just knows how to keep grinding out a win.
I'm not on the bandwagon of saying it'll be disaster, but I will say that I agree with Dean a little bit. He's been known to be sick because of the COVID situation. He's been known with illnesses. Those are the things I think most people are, I think that Dean's mainly talking about. Now, he's had visa problems. That's been fixed.
Respected MMA analysts aren't holding back. Not only do they want Dricus Du Plessis to win, but they also hope the South African sends Khamzat Chimaev packing from the sport. Meanwhile, Chael Sonnen observed that following Chimaev's win over Whitaker, Dricus momentarily overtook him as the betting favorite, with odds swinging to 3-1. For a brief moment, Dricus briefly became the betting favorite, surpassing Chimaev.
Chimaev got done with Whitaker. The mythical line of Dricus Chimaev came out, and it was 3-1. And 3-1 represents not only a victory by the betting public, but a dominant victory. By perspective, Islam versus Charles was 3-1, just by perspective. So that not only has changed.
However, that lead quickly faded, returning Chimaev to the top. Currently, the odds are very close, with both fighters nearly even in the betting lines as fans eagerly await their matchup.
There was a brief period, and it was less than an hour. Dricus became the favorite. Now, it quickly bounced back, but these guys are almost even money. And that changes based on, I mean, this line is very unusual. What this line has done is almost like no fight that I've ever seen, but I'm only sharing with you. It turned out that Dricus is way better than he got credit for. It turned out that he's closer to as good as he says he is than we thought he was. But it's still Chimaev. That is the media darling. That is the unbeaten. That is the wolf of the division. And I have been surprised that it's moving, and it's moving in my heart too. I'm feeling it too.
And interestingly, Rainier de Ridder believes that if Khamzat Chimaev wins decisively, it would come with major star power, but also long delays due to his history of time off. He suggested it might be better for the division if Dricus Du Plessis wins, as he could return for a title defense within 4 to 6 months. With Chimaev in the picture, de Ridder warned the title fight timeline could stretch out too long.
Khamzat is, of course, I think if Khamzat wins this one, especially if he wins decisively, he'll be like a huge name, right? And that might come with him taking a lot of time off after. So it might be better if Dricus wins, and then we can fight in 4 to 6 months. That would be best, I think, yeah.
I'm sure, like, the reality is, like, Khamzat could win but then be out for a year, and I know you don't want to wait that long.
Nah, exactly. So hopefully, it would be nice if...
Adding to that, Michael Venom Page questioned how Dricus Du Plessis keeps racking up wins, admitting he means no disrespect, but finds DDP's style unorthodox and messy, to the point where it shouldn't be effective. He described Dricus as someone who is like an amateur, but is very talented.
I feel disrespectful every time I say it, yeah, but I genuinely believe this, and I genuinely don't understand why DDP keeps winning, because he's got such a kind of almost messy, he's like a super talented amateur fighter. And I can see like aspects of his technical ability, but it seems messy. Like, it's not a style that is appealing to me, but he just seems to know how to get the win and know how to kind of push through.
Furthermore, Michael Page noted that Dricus keeps grinding out wins, even if it's not always pretty. He admitted it's a tough fight to call, and while skill for skill the smart pick is Khamzat Chimaev, the unpredictability around DDP makes it tricky. MVP added that he'll be watching it all unfold from the front row on fight night.
If this fight came up before, I'd be like Khamzat, and yeah, no, I'd just pick that, no issues. But DDP just knows how to keep grinding out a win. So it's, for me, it's a hard one to even pick. Skill-wise, I guess I would say Khamzat again, but DDP, like I said, he just seems to know how to grind out a win. I just think it's a great fight, and I'm glad I'm going to be front row to see that one.
In addition, Chael Sonnen pushed back on the criticism of Khamzat Chimaev missing weight, saying people are missing the full context. He pointed out that Chimaev was seriously ill during the pandemic, even needing a respirator, and was later blocked from traveling for another fight.
Khamzat missing these fights. That guy during a world pandemic thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
He was on a respirator, and I mean, he was in that really bad shape. It hit a few people, but he was one of them. And then you've got a recovery process from that. And then all of a sudden we find out that he's not allowed to travel. He's offered a world title fight.
Ahead of the Strickland card, he had a broken hand. Sonnen argued these were legitimate setbacks, not excuses, and painted Chimaev's struggles as unfortunate circumstances rather than unprofessionalism.
Get Sean Strickland, but he's got a broken hand. Like these are very reasonable excuses.
Yeah.
An excuse and a reason kind of sound the same, but sometimes reasons, and it's not an excuse. And I'm just saying, I've never looked at the misses fights. I've just never looked at him like that. I've looked at some bad circumstance, but I actually see him quite differently. I mean, the first time we get introduced to him on television, 7 days later, he's back on television doing another fight at a different weight class. You know, that was so weird about it. If his first fight was at 70 and the second was 85, we would get it. How did he fight 85 and then was able to make 170? Like, I think he deserves a lot of credit for how much he shows up, but as the king of middleweights.
On the other hand, Josh Thompson backed that perspective, agreeing that Chimaev's health history is a real concern. He pointed out that if Chimaev gets sick again, it could stall the middleweight division the same way John Jones's situation had held up the heavyweight division.
I'm not on the bandwagon of saying it'll be disaster, but I will say that I agree with Dean a little bit. He's been known to be sick because of the COVID situation. He's been known with illnesses. Those are the things I think most people are, I think that Dean's mainly talking about. Now, he's had visa problems. That's been fixed. I would assume that's because Dana and Trump. I would assume that that's why. Because now all of a sudden he's allowed to. Now, that may go away in 4 years. So
3.5.
you never know. Yeah, 3.5. But I do get concerned that if he is ill, if he is sick, if he's having, health problems, health issues, that does scare me a little bit because look, we've already gone through the heavyweight division being held up. The 205-pound division's kind of lagging.
Furthermore, Josh acknowledged the concerns, but admitted he's not fully convinced Chimaev would hold up the division. He's trying to stay optimistic, noting that if Chimaev becomes champion, the UFC would likely book his fights in Europe or the Middle East, reducing visa issues. He also believes the promotion would do everything possible to keep Chimaev active and in rotation.
One of the divisions, finally the middleweight division, has got some activity, and they've got great activity.
Some momentum.
I understand what he's talking about. I'm not quite convinced though that it'll happen. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I know that I'm trying to cross them. They're still, but I mean, for me, I'm trying to look at the positive side and being like, hey, once he becomes champion, obviously they'll probably fight him more over in, in the Middle East or somewhere in Europe, Sweden, whatever it is. They'll fight him somewhere in the Europe area. So visa problems won't be as much of an issue. That's one thing. Two is I'm sure that they will try to keep him as active as they possibly can without making him sick, without to the point where he can take care of his body, take care of himself. I think that'll be better for him.
Adding to that, Bilal Muhammad pushed back and stated that the guy who started this conversation of doubting Khamzat is way off. In fact, Bilal believes that this matchup could become one of the biggest moments in UFC history. Bilal expressed full confidence in Khamzat Chimaev, predicting a dominant win. He added that if Chimaev follows Khabib's advice and keeps the fight standing, it could end up looking easy.
Earlier this week, Dean Thomas said Chimaev wins the belt, it's going to be a disaster.
No, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. If Khamzat wins, it's a disaster, actually.
I don't know what the fudge Dean Thomas is talking about, but I think he's way off on this one. I think it'll be one of the biggest things for the UFC. If Chimaev wins the belt, I think it's only going to get bigger, especially if he goes out there and dominates Dricus, who's on a hot streak. And I think he can. I think he go out there, finish him dominantly, or even like Khabib said, just strike with him.
Я думаю, что мое личное мнение, я бы Хамзату стойки дал.
I think he could outstrike him. He'll make it look easy.
In the end, Bilal made it clear he's siding with Khamzat Chimaev and hopes to see him come away with the win.
I do think he could do it dominantly. I know Dean Thomas said that he won't be as active, but I think a lot of that just comes from not being able to get into the U.S. Now he's in the U.S. He's been training in L.A. He's fighting in Chicago. Especially if he wins the belt, I think it'll be easier for him to stay down here. I think you're way off, Dean. Cheering for Chimaev. I think he wins. I hope he wins. Dricus, you suck. But yeah, Chimaev, you need anything in Chicago, hit my line.
Additionally, Chael suggests that Chimaev should focus on taking Dricus Du Plessis to the mat instead of exhausting himself chasing him around. He addressed worries about Chimaev's stamina, stating that although he's shown signs of fatigue, he has never given up. Sonnen believes it's unfair to doubt his cardio since Chimaev fights with maximum effort and uses all his energy as expected. He emphasizes that this strategy will be tested against DDP.
Chimaev's got to get him down. Like, he can't just go out and fight him anywhere. And then there's a big question around Chimaev's conditioning. I don't know that that's fair. We have seen Chimaev get exhausted, but Fedor used to get exhausted, but he never stopped. It never slowed him down. And that's the same thing with Chimaev. I don't think that it's fair to question his condition. I think he's got a bunch of energy and he uses it all, which is what he's supposed to do. So that's going to get tested. We are going to find out if that's accurate. But yes, I also am giving Dricus a lot better look than I was when Chimaev and Whitaker was done and the fight got announced.
Meanwhile, Brendan Schaub called Dricus Du Plessis versus Khamzat Chimaev the greatest middleweight matchup the UFC has ever seen. He highlighted how DDP's style breaks away from traditional martial arts expectations and admitted that he has no clear read on how this one will unfold.
My prisoner of the moment, I feel like DDP Khamzat is one of the greatest middleweight competitions to ever happen in the UFC. You got Khamzat undefeated, boogeyman, DDP already a middleweight great in a prime of his career. I have no clue how this is going to fold out. No clue. Gun to the head, DDP is so good, so durable, so big, and just finds a way to win. He's just an absolute winner. He's one of my faves. And he's so unorthodox. And you have Khamzat, this boogeyman. Obviously, cardio was an issue for him back in the day. I'm here to tell you now, I've personally, with these peepers, have seen the man train. Cardio is not an issue.
However, Brendan did offer some analysis, expressing interest in how Khamzat Chimaev approaches the fight. He pointed out that if Khamzat can't finish it in the first or second round, Dricus Du Plessis could take over by capitalizing on Chimaev's exhaustion in the later rounds.
But that's all predicated on, let's say Khamzat goes in there and tries to get DDP down in the first 2 rounds and can't get it done, and he gets tired. DDP in that 3rd, 4th, and 5th will finish him, you know? So I'm interested to see what Khamzat's game plan is.
Echoing the sentiment that DDP is deceptively dangerous, Mike Perry described Dricus Du Plessis as an awkward iron boulder rolling downhill who is hard to stop once he picks up momentum. He pointed out how fans are split, with some fully behind Khamzat Chimaev and others riding with DDP.
DDP versus Khamzat matchup, man, I don't know. DDP in Sean Strickland 2 looked like the Hulk. He was huge. If he does that again against Khamzat, I know Khamzat's been incredible. I think DDP is just this awkward boulder. He's just a iron boulder. Like, he's just rolling downhill, dude.
Moreover, Perry also noted the contrast in training camps, highlighting that while Khamzat has been working out of Sweden and California, DDP has been grinding in the trenches of Africa.
Some people are like, oh, Khamzat all day. Some people are like, DDP all day. So it's very interesting. Until next week, we'll find out. And we'll be seeing you. He's going to jump on the back. He's going to pull some backpack.
Yeah, he's gonna like he tried on Rob, but I don't think you're gonna be able to, like you just said, dude. He is just like an iron boulder. Like, he's gonna survive. It's gonna end up being like the Gilbert Burns and Khamzat fight, like, or Kamaru and Khamzat. But
you know, Khamzat trains in like Sweden and like California, and Dricus trains in the trenches of Africa. This fight, it blows my mind. It really does. So I'm really looking forward to that. What do you guys think in the comments? I know that the comments have been going crazy on this fight.
Breaking down Chimaev's training style, Sonnen pointed out that strength training shouldn't be the hardest part of a fighter's day. He emphasized that real energy should be spent during sparring and live wrestling sessions, which should follow strength work as a supplement.
Strength and conditioning is an interesting debate. If it becomes your hardest workout of the day, that's not good. because there's nothing that you're going to do in strength and conditioning that you see in the octagon. You hope and assume it converts, but why would it? Why would pushing a sled when there's no sled in the octagon? Why would that convert? Why would doing 100 pull-ups when there's no pull-up bar in the octagon, right? Just for example, so I'm saying the strength and conditioning should not be your hardest workout of the day. It should be a good supplement workout, and then you go into sparring. You go into live wrestling on the ground, and that's where your real energy gets burned. And that is not the case.
Additionally, Sonnen pointed out that just because a fighter changes their approach doesn't automatically mean the results will improve.
The strength and conditioning is the hardest part of the day. He is putting less into fight training than he used to because he's not showing up with the same energy. And I've done that one time.
As there's a common belief that doing something different leads to different outcomes, Sonnen stressed the importance of stepping back and evaluating whether those changes will benefit Chimaev.
It is not obvious that because you do something different, you're going to get a better result. It is generally believed if you do something different will happen. But we all got to sit back and figure out if for Chimaev and his style, that's going to be a positive or not. I think that's a little critical by me, but I also think it's a fair comparison.
I think it's super fair, especially because he said before the Whitaker fight that some of the health issues were stemming from overtraining. So and he found a good balance. He reduced some stuff, and that allowed him to get in the cage and perform the way he did against Robert. But yeah, if you're pushing yourself as hard as we know Sam Calavita pushes those guys, that makes you wonder. But hopefully, all is in a good spot.
Really?
Interestingly, Brendan Schaub suggests we might see a trilogy from this fight, comparing it to the bouts between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway.
I'm so intrigued by this fight. So intrigued. I bet they fight a few times. This won't be the last of it. It's one of those fights. We're getting a trilogy out of this. It's a Volkanovski, Max Holloway vibe fight. We're like, okay, here we go. Frank Yeager, BJ Penn, Yeah.
Weighing in, veteran referee John McCarthy stated that a Khamzat Chimaev win wouldn't be a problem for the division.
Damaging for the sport or damaging for the UFC of Khamzat? No. It's so funny because Khamzat at one time, and I said something and people got all mad at me because the UFC was actually pushing Khamzat as the guy who was going to have the most fights, the fastest number of fights in the UFC of anybody ever. And I go, the fastest guy to have 4 fights in the UFC. And I go, Royce Gracie had 4 fights in a night.
In addition, he acknowledged Chimaev's past visa issues, but pointed out that the UFC has plenty of international venues to host his fights if needed. McCarthy believes that even if visa problems arise again, the UFC will find a way to work around them, ensuring the division keeps moving and Khamzat remains active.
Khamzat was a guy that was going to have more fights than anyone. He has run into problems with visas, and that is a problem for the UFC. But they can always get around those problems because the UFC is the one that decides where they put their fights.
Yeah.
And so, will it be a problem if Khamzat beats DDP? No. They'll work with it. They'll work at getting him visas in the States so they can do fights here with him. And if they can't, they got plenty of places that they can go and take their champion to do fights for the middleweight title.
Additionally, Marcus McGee expressed his views on the matchup, indicating he would place his bet on Khamzat Chimaev if it came to that. He emphasized Khamzat's combination of aggression and efficiency, noting that Khamzat is a formidable opponent.
Then someone gave you $10,000 to bet right now, Dricus versus Khamzat. Who you got?
Man, if I had to put money on it, I had to put money on Khamzat. How could you not? He's just efficient and he's a vicious fighter, but that doesn't say enough about the story.
As the clash between Dricus Du Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev inches closer, the stakes grow heavier, not just for the fighters, but for the future of the middleweight division. With respected voices across the MMA world split on who will be victorious, it's evident that this fight serves as a crucial assessment of fighting styles, endurance, and legacy. Let us know your thoughts and predictions in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, press the like, hit subscribe, and share with a fellow MMA fan. To stay updated with the latest combat sports news, press the bell icon so you are notified when our latest video drops.